Welcome. I'm going to read a couple passages of this book and I'm going to talk about it, comment on it, and tell you about my experiences and what I think about the philosophy and the spirituality of this book. And it's going to be fun. Let's do this. It's going to be super fun. Let's get into this. So, the book's called Adiyogi, The Source of Yoga. So, Adi means first, the first yogi. It's written by Satguru and another person, but his name is way too long and hard to pronounce, so I'm not even going to try. Let's get into this. It's going to be a fun little adventure. Join me. Let's have fun. And if you get any good value out of this, if it resonates with you at all, then like and subscribe, hit that bell notification for more great content coming down the pipeline. So I'll read just a couple words here, a little passage to get started. And let's do this. Let's get into this. Both science and mysticism are in fact fulfilled by the same spirit of wonder, fueled by the same spirit of wonder. Both are fueled by the deep desire to know. Neither is about belief. So that's interesting. He talks a lot about science, how science and yogic lore are they're starting to come together now. Science is finding out and figuring out a bunch of stuff that the yogis have talked about for thousands of years. And it's really interesting. They're both truth seekers at the heart. They're both truth seekers at the heart. They're looking for the truth. They're both fueled by the deep desire to know. Neither is about belief. So that's another thing too. I find a lot of religions, they lean heavier on belief and less on the seeking nature. That's one of the reasons why I dig Hindu culture, because a lot of it's about staying in the seeking mindset of being a seeker. Like they all have their own perspectives and their own, things they're working on in their own religions, but they keep the seeking mindset, the seeking mind state, which I find very cool. They're always open and seeking. Where I find a lot of religions are more like not open and not seeking. They're set. They're like solidified. And I find that there isn't really much room for growth in a solidified mindset, mind frame, right? Okay, let's do another passage. The non-physical dimension of Shiva, the physical dimension of energy that animates the universe, is Shakti. Shiva is that which is not, and Shakti is that which is. They are two aspects of the same reality. So in yogic lore, Shiva is the nothingness before there was form, and not the nothingness, primordial, nothing, void energy, emptiness, like a non-physical energy. They would call that Shiva. I mean, there's other terms depending on which religion. In the Tao, they call it the Tao in Taoism. Like they say, the Tao was there before God was created. So that's the emptiness, the dark emptiness of nothingness. But there's still a non-physical energy. Actually, in the Tao, so they talk about the darkness in this, and in the Tao, there's also a darkness he speaks of, or they speak of in the Tao De Jing. The Tao is darkness within darkness. Wild. And when I say darkness, I don't mean the evil side, like good and bad, light and dark. I don't mean that. Like when you look out into the cosmos, into the sky at night, it's dark, but it's not evil, right? It's that type of darkness we're talking about. It's the formless. So when they say Shiva is the masculine energy, the formless before there was form, but that energy, that primordial energy, gives rise to form, and then when it does give rise to form, it turns into light and matter, and then they call that light and matter and physical energy, and then they call that the Shakti, which is the female form, the female energy. And so Shiva and Shakti come together to create masculine and feminine energies that come together to create creation. Another passage, shall we? Okay. And this becomes the first form of Shiva. This is Rudra. So this is another idea in the yogic lore, and there's millions of little pieces and parts and hundreds of stories. So this is one little aspect of creation, the yogic lore of creation. This becomes the first form of Shiva. This is Rudra, literally the one who roars. So in science, they say there was a big bang that started the cosmos, right? So in this book, he talks about it was probably a set of bangs, like bang, 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 all these gases exploding. And he said it's like sounds like an engine, like a car engine, which is tons of explosions, tiny explosions, boom, 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 and then it sounds like a roar. You're revving your car engine. So that's how yogic lore said it was more like a roar of thousands of bangs, thousands of explosions, and like a roaring, blinding, bright and loud sound, just which is kind of cool. And it's very ancient, I do believe. I don't know when that was written in the yogic lore, but I think it was a long time ago. So the first form of Shiva, Rudra, which literally means the one who roars. As this first form, singular and undifferentiated, begins to reverberate. There is a spellbinding explosion of sound and light. Galaxies and planets, stars and moons, celestial realms, and netherworlds, dimensions of the past and future, realms both subtle and gross. Gross meaning dense, subtle and dense. Spew out of the mouth of Rudra, galvanized into life. This is the birth of polarity. The birth of polarity. Breathtaking polarity. Now begins the vibrancy and dynamism of physical creation. This, in essence, is the yoga creation story. So there was a bunch of stuff in there that I didn't read about other strange aspects, like imagine like someone laying down with their hands behind their back, sprawled out in the cosmos, a massive like being, and then like an energy comes from their womb chakra, one of the chakras in their womb, and it like creates this energy void. Anyway, it's a long story, but that's one of the many, many stories. That's only part of it. I'm not going to go into it, but it's interesting, right? So it's a roar. Instead of one bang, it's thousands of explosions and a massive roar. Okay, so let's read another passage. Nothingness took on form. It took on the shape of a linga. When creation dissolves, the final shape it assumes is also a linga. So when there's a black hole and a universe or a galaxy, it first forms a linga. A linga is it just means form in Sanskrit, but it's kind of like the shape of an egg, but it's more instead of egg being a little bit off, it's more it's like a it's like a circle that's been squished. And then they talk about that form so much in the yogic lore. And you've heard of like if you've ever seen a linga, it's supposed to be the form of like God in a way. And when they use this form to kind of like worship in a way, it's because part of the reason was because they wanted to be more inclusive. So instead of having an image of God or a specific God, they were like, okay, let's get rid of that whole thing because everyone chooses their own, and then they fight over which one's the best, and they kill each other over it. So let's just have a scientific, like, natural, geometric, perfect geometric form that forms the beginning of existence and all of nature. So let's go with a linga form, which is kind of like a squished zero, and we'll say that's God, because in science it's kind of how creation starts. So let's look at that as God instead of an image of a person. And then everyone's image of a person is different, so we're going to fight over which one's the best. So it'll be less fighting if we just pick a geometric shape. So that's part of why people look towards like a linga as God. There's other reasons too, and he talks about them in here. A doorway to the beyond from both ends, right? So the beginning of existence, science is getting into this, and yogic lore was first that shape, the linga shape. And at the end of existence, when everything explodes and goes into reverts back into the nothingness, it's that shape ends with that shape again too. So it begins and ends with that shape. So they say it's kind of like a door to existence, or the door to beyond existence, to the fathomless nothingness realm of eternity, which is like kind of like God, primordial energy of creation. Or they call it Shiva in this religion. They call it Shiva. I guess you could call it Brahma, or God. Oh, my neighbors are home. Let's read another little passage, nice and quickly. It is only because a few human beings through history have found this passage that we realized that the ultimate nature of existence is boundless nothingness. So he's saying this doorway, only a few people have found this doorway, realize that it's the ultimate nature of existence. The ultimate nature of existence is boundless nothingness. And that doorway is that linga form. I mean, I'm sure people have written books just on that geometric shape. And have you ever heard of the flower of life? It's a geometric pattern. and the linga is like the petals in the flowers, and each flower connects to another flower, and it makes a bigger circle and a bigger circle and then a bigger circle, and then all these geometric patterns can come out of that. Like there's many patterns that can form from that. Geometrical shapes, perfect geometrical shapes. Most of the main ones, the really fundamental geometric patterns and shapes can come from that shape. It involves perfect triangles and perfect cubes and so many shapes. So the flower of life is one shape. What are some of the other shapes? Metatron's cube is another shape that can come from that fits into that design. What is that other one? Not Da Vinci. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, many patterns and mathematical equations and perfect geometric shapes that form the structure of like everything can come from some of those simple symbols, which are very cool. I really would love to get into that. It's really fascinating stuff. Okay, one more passage. Let's do this. If the masculine and feminine meet at the Muladhara, the lowest chakra or energy center in the human system, that's like right at the bottom of your spine, that is sexuality. But if they meet, if the masculine and feminine energies meet within the highest chakra, the Sahasrara, I don't know how to pronounce that one, that is spirituality. And when he says the masculine and feminine energies, he's not talking about a man and a woman. He's talking about fundamental energy forces within your own system, because each human has masculine and feminine qualities and energies that kind of come together to form a more balanced creature. So he's talking about the energy side of it, and when these energies come together, your chakras kind of wake up better. They get turned on more. I think that's what he's talking about here. But if they meet within the highest chakra, the Sahasrara, I don't know how to pronounce that. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. That is the spirituality. That is the point. That is the point at which, that is spirituality. That is the point at which the human meets the divine. The point at which creation begins and ends. The point at which birth and dissolution happen in endless simultaneity. That is self-realization. Yeah, you have two main huge chakras on top of the head, outside of the head, and when those are kind of churned on, woken up, and balanced with those energies, self-realization, mukti, enlightenment. But I've heard that like to get to the point and the level to actually turn those chakras on is it's way out there. Like it's monks spend their lifetimes just churning on a couple of these chakras, let alone the ones outside there. And it's dangerous too. I think you can die if you try to turn them on, if you don't have a really good guide or guru. you can just die by when you turn them on. I've heard that happens when most people, when they hit enlightenment, they turn those ones on, the last two, they just die because they can't hold the energy. They die instantly. It's too much energy for you. You just die, which isn't a bad thing. It's just it's bad because it's only bad because you can't stick around and be a light for the rest of the world. You leave. So it's like kind of, it sucks for everyone else, right? So you want to stick around. So the ones that do turn those on become enlightened. You want them to stick around. We need more light. We need more people being light, sharing their light, lighting up the world on the planet, especially in these dark times. I mean, I guess all times were kind of dark, but yeah, you want to stick around. I heard in Sadhguru's ashrams, he usually stops the people before they fully turn them on, right near the edge, so that they don't just disappear and take off, so they can stick around and be of service to everyone before kind of making that final jump. But I've heard also too in some of his ashrams that he has the brahmacharis, which are like 100% devoted monks, essentially. Brahmacharis. It's the same way as saying monk, but it's more extreme, I think. It's like a Hindu monk. It's 100% devotion. The life of 100% devotion, which is hard to even fathom for most people, even myself. But it's cool, though. It's some cool... I heard so many people apply to become brahmacharis in his organizations, and only like 1 in 1,000 maybe make it, because you have to be... It's not just having your heart in the right place or your mind. It's like your system has to be your karma and your system, your energy systems, your past lives and everything. A lot of that stuff has to be aligned, so that when you become 100% devotee, it's not wasted. You're not thinking about, I wish I could have a family and some kids the whole time. Which if you've gone in that direction with your life and you've built those energies or those desires, and depending on your age and your life cycles that you're in, there's so many factors, millions of factors, Anyway, so if you got any value out of this, like and subscribe, hit that bell notification for more great content coming down the pipeline. And I'll see you later. Peace. Namaste.